Ethan had rehearsed the evening a dozen times in his head, how he'd walk in with a polite smile, greet his blind date, try not to spill water on himself, and maybe, just maybe, have a normal conversation for once. But reality didn't care about rehearsals. The moment the elevator doors slid open to the rooftop restaurant, he felt out of place. Everything gleamed, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, tables draped in linen so white it looked untouched by the world. It was a place for people born into comfort, not someone who had to calculate every bus fare. He tugged at his shirt collar, which suddenly felt too tight. It wasn't that he was ashamed of who he wasn't. But tonight, in this place, the contrast between him and everyone else felt painfully sharp. At the far end of the restaurant, 3 co-workers, Nate, Jordan, and Lex, sat hunched over drinks, snickering. They had insisted earlier that a friend of a friend thought Ethan was cute and wanted to meet him. He'd believed them. He should have known better. The host approached with a polished smile. "Table for Ethan Chambers?" "That's me," he murmured. She gestured for him to follow. Every step felt like walking across a stage where he hadn't memorized the lines. When he reached the table, he saw her, Melissa. Beautiful, flawless, wearing something that looked impossibly expensive. She stared at him as if someone had mistaken him for the waiter. "You're Ethan?" she asked, her voice dragging with disbelief. Ethan gave a small nod, aware of the heat crawling up his neck. He wasn't offended, just painfully used to reactions like that. Before either of them could speak again, Nate's voice cut through the softly playing violin music. "Melissa. We found you the perfect guy," he called out. "Don't worry, he's not dangerous. Just financially allergic to restaurants like this." The table next to them chuckled. Someone's spoon clinked loudly against a glass. Ethan kept his eyes on the floor, wishing he could sink through it. Melissa winced. "Look, Ethan, I didn't agree to this. I thought someone else was coming. They told me." "It's fine," he whispered. "I get it. It's not you," she said quickly. "They just..." "No. It's okay. Really." He forced a tiny smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sorry they dragged you into this." He turned away before she could reply. Each step toward the exit felt heavier than the last. His mind swirled with humiliation. Why had he trusted them? Why had he let himself hope for something simple, like a normal date? He pushed through the embarrassment, focusing only on reaching the elevator. Then he heard a chair scrape. Not Melissa's. Not one of his coworkers. Someone else. He didn't turn at first. But the quiet hush that spread across the room made him look over his shoulder. A girl, not much older than him, not dressed in expensive glittering fabrics, was standing. She had been sitting alone, a book on the table beside her plate, as if she had come for the view more than the company. Her expression wasn't pity or curiosity. It was indignation. She walked forward, every step confident but calm, like she wasn't afraid to interrupt the entire room. She stopped beside him and looked straight at Nate's smirking group before saying, loud enough for all of them to hear, "I'll take the date." Ethan blinked in disbelief. "Wait, what?" Her eyes softened when she looked at him. "I want him." The room fell into a stunned silence. A waiter paused mid-pour. Someone dropped a fork. Melissa stared, speechless. Ethan stood frozen, unsure if he should feel flattered or worried that another prank was unfolding. But the girl wasn't smiling. She wasn't mocking him. She wasn't trying to make a scene, she was trying to save one. She turned to the host. "Please prepare a table for 2. The host, who had been trying very hard to look invisible during the awkwardness, immediately straightened. "Of course, Miss Morgan." Miss Morgan. Ethan's breath caught. He had heard that name before. Everyone had. Morgan Hotels. Morgan Group. Morgan Tower. Meaning she was Isla Morgan, he whispered without thinking. She nodded. "That's me." His co-workers' faces instantly morphed from amusement to panic. Jordan elbowed Nate, who looked like he wanted to melt under the table. Isla stepped fully between Ethan and the gawkers. You shouldn't leave because someone else decided you weren't worth respect. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Words were hard to grab when your whole night had flipped upside down. You don't know me, he finally managed. I don't have to know you to see what they tried to do, she said softly. And I'm not letting them win. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried strength. The kind that didn't need raising. The host cleared her throat gently. This way, Miss Morgan. We have a window table ready. Isla gestured for Ethan to follow. And though his instincts screamed that this couldn't be real, he found himself walking behind her. The table overlooked the city, buildings glowing like scattered stars, traffic weaving in ribbons of red and white light. It was the sort of view people took pictures of because it didn't look real. Ethan sat stiffly, aware of dozens of eyes watching, but Isla didn't seem bothered at all. She sat down calmly, lifting the menu without glancing at the scattered whispers around them. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. I know, she replied. But I want to. Why? She closed the menu and looked at him with a sincerity that almost hurt. Because I've watched people pull that kind of stunt before. To others. To me. It's simple for them, they think it's entertainment. Ethan clenched his jaw. It's not. I know. She paused. But I also know people like you don't deserve to leave a place feeling smaller than when they walked in. He looked down at his hands. I'm not used to anyone stepping in. Well, she said, then tonight's your first time. Her smile wasn't charming or flirtatious. It was honest. Comfortable. Human. For the first time since he'd walked in, the tightness in his chest eased. He didn't know who Isla Morgan really was beyond the name. He didn't know why she had chosen him to stand beside. But he knew one thing. He hadn't been rescued out of pity. He had been defended out of principle. And somehow, that made all the difference.